All right, I think Adolf Hitler knew he was full of shit. I think bank robbers know they're full of shit. They don't care, okay, because they have turned themselves off from any consideration of the impact of their actions on others. All they are thinking about is what they want, okay? They've decided, all right? I think the argument has taken place in their brain. They've had the argument, and they have decided to shoot their conscience. They've decided to say, fuck being a decent person. Fuck my obligations to the rest of the human beings existing on Earth. My only obligation is going to be to me. They've made a willful choice. And so in my opinion, we can judge them because their intelligence sucks, okay? Their brain function sucks. It is a broken computer. It is useless. It cannot function to do anybody on this planet any good, so it is useless. It is garbage. It belongs in the junk pile. It is not to be cherished or respected or sympathized with because it is so fundamentally broken, okay? It is to be done away with. Not tormented, not tortured, but just done away with. It has no useful function here because it's broken. The logic is not working. I think that fucking contention can be made. And the changes can be dramatic changes. You talk like they can make these little tiny changes. Now you can have a realization of an ethical truth or a principled truth about how life on Earth works that will change your entire philosophy, that will change what dominates inside of your understanding. I mean, the realization that we are equal, that your consciousness is just as valid and valuable as mine, can have dramatic consequence in terms of how I'm going to perceive the world. It makes a big, huge fucking difference. It's not a little change, it's a dramatic change. And it doesn't take much knowledge to make that dramatic change. So stupid. I mean, talked about standpoints again, and that's, that's making a concession to the fact that there are standpoints or viewpoints is making a concession that maybe one of those fucking standpoints might be more pure, have more integrity, more validity than another standpoint. Okay, so it's just plain stupid, and one of them could possibly be called objective because you have eradicated all subjective influences and you have taken the broadest frame of reference possible, and therefore you have achieved what is our best approximation of objective. So I would again argue that the brain can be principled by intelligence. It can be reprogrammed by intelligence. There's nothing preventing it. There's nothing stopping it. It's a practical, attainable goal. All right, so now on to Matt. Like I said, I'm not going to argue again this stuff. We've sort of gone through the noble truths. It sort of depends on how you define those. And if we define the first one, instead of using the word suffering, life is suffering, we just use the word life is unsatisfactoriness, then it makes more sense. Then it's something we can work with. We might be able to agree with it. But then when you start converting this and saying things like we have no self, well, that's just plain nonsense. Every individual is going to realize they're a self, okay? The self does not fuse with the community. The ethics oblige us to recognize the sameness of the selves involved in this community, but there is no integration of the selves. There is no dependency. The selves have no dependency on each other. It's just ludicrous to say that we need each other to have a self. That's just nonsense. People could live perfectly well on an island by themselves. People have done it. They've survived without other selves to interact with. There's nothing saying it's an impossible or that it is a hindrance to a satisfactory life, or just as satisfactory as many people are living here now. All right, another comment you made was you are the world. And that's supposed to mean something? I mean, that's a rational statement. I mean, what the hell does that mean? I mean, anybody, again, is going to say, what are you talking about? You are the world. No, as individuals, we are not the world. That's the whole fucking point. We got to appreciate that the world extends beyond us, that we are all caught in this trap, and that it will go on and on and on, generation after generation after generation, depending on what changes we make. It's stupid. I just don't know what the necessity of this rhetoric is. It just doesn't serve any purpose. And then your video, you make the stupid point about the bacteria. When I said fuck the bacteria, I'm talking about it is not a relevant component to the equation that matters. That meaning is based on sentient life forms. It is not based on animals that cannot feel. Feeling is what gives us meaning. Feeling is what makes the whole universe matter. If there's no feeling, it doesn't matter what it does. I don't care if a rock falls off a mountain. It doesn't mean anything unless it's crushing something that feels. There's all kinds of things we are dependent on environmentally to get to where we got to. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, and you really should know that. Yeah, well, whatever. It's a stupid point. So I'll just hit it again. I mean, you say we are not individuals, you know. I mean, I just don't know where you can get that. Where do you get this crap that we are not individuals? Of course we are individuals. I don't think who's going to believe, who's going to argue with me that we are not individuals? That my gray matter is a contained vessel with my personality in it, with my knowledge base in it, with all of that. It's an interactive individual thing. It's you know, there's nothing else communicating with it besides me and besides what I perceive through my senses. It's stupid rhetoric. It just makes this argument more and more impossible. All right, so I'll just finish up again by emphasizing once again my point. That yes, the analogy of comparing our life with, say, the rat chasing cheese in a maze is valid. Okay, we are born in need. We need things. We want things. Okay, we spend our life trying to pursue the stuff we want, the stuff we are addicted to, the stuff we need. We feel driven, compelled by feelings to obtain, and that's the game of life. And that we can be critical of the game because it is the game of our genetics. It is what the DNA has been programmed in every living thing on Earth to do, which is to consume enough so it can reproduce. So that's the game. It is conquer and dominate. And it does that through creating this incentive in sentient beings. It creates the incentive by creating feelings, okay? So it's no longer just programming. It's no longer some straight line where it just says, well, this is the mechanical process and it does it, all right? It now adds this element of feeling, to use that to motivate, to push, to compel, to manipulate human behavior. And we are involved in that manipulation. We are being manipulated by nature through these feelings, through these passions. We are being compelled to behave a certain way. And by an aberration of nature, we have this thing, this added intelligence, this extra intelligence that somehow accidentally developed some 60,000 years ago, that nature didn't even know we had, okay, that remained only potential until we acquired the language skills and the ability to write it down, and write our knowledge down on a piece of paper and be able to carry it into the future and expand on it and grow it and eventually build airplanes and eventually land on the moon. That's the story of human life. And so for this brief period, we've had this capacity to have enough intelligence to understand our own psychology and the fact that we are manipulated and controlled by nature. And we can choose to break that control. We can say, no, I'm not going to be controlled by crude forces. I'm not going to be controlled by the design of a fucking bacteria. I'm going to build a more elegant animal than that. And we can do that with our intelligence alone, with our own mindset. We can become something better. And as a civilization, if enough of us can acquire that same mindset, as a civilization, we can do better. And we can define things like right and wrong, and do what we can to protect that the right things are done and that the wrong things aren't done, that good prevails and that bad fails. I mean, that's what we can do. We can do that with our fucking intelligence. Or we can choose to remain rats, obsessed with the cheese, and use our intelligence to figure out a way to trip the other rats up, to kill them, to run over them, to cheat the system, to climb over the wall wherever possible, to do whatever we can to get to our goddamn cheese as individuals. That's the two choices. We can be assholes, or we can be elegant, intelligent creatures. You can choose. That's the fucking point, and the choice is simple. All it requires you to do is say, yes, I realize what I am. I am a controlled psychology. I have been designed by crude, stupid, asshole forces, but I can overcome it with good thoughts alone. They can own me. They can make me better. It's not that fucking complicated.